These are my audience members. So, is that school really worth it? Imagine living in a world where, depending on where you live, your future is already set to not be successful. Well, that is what it's like for students in America who attend schools in poor communities. All of us at one point have been affected by unequal school funding. Some may have benefited from it by having newer technology every year or so, such as like in my school, we had to wait in order to get these laptops. Like, we had to be put on a wait list for maybe months at a time. For other students, it was more like weeks, but depending on how soon you're able to be put on the wait list. So what can be done about the school-to-prison pipeline? The school-to-prison pipeline is a disproportionate tendency of minors and young adults from disadvantaged backgrounds to become incarcerated because of increasingly harsh school and municipal policies. The federal government needs to implement a law that gives schools in lower communities more funding. I'll start by explaining all the problems with school funding. Most districts have this one-size-fits-all type of deal where no matter how many students or where they're located, they are given a certain amount of money and they have to deal with what they get. According to a study by Rutgers and Syracuse University, schools with a high percentage of students with low-income households need 2 to 3 times more money than other schools to address the problems such as limited time to do homework due to babysitting, lack of internet access and tutoring, or unsafe and unstable households. So, the unsafe and unstable households can be due to parents going through a divorce, or one parent might be abusive, or it could be due to like the siblings might not giving the child enough time to do homework, like they're always on their case about stuff. So another problem is the education in low-income household or low-income schools isn't as good as affluent communities. As stated by the Educational Law Center, or ELC, the majority of states lack progressive teaching staffing ratios. For example, so students who face high poverty levels are assigned the same distribution of teachers as better off children, or actually in schools with fewer teachers per class compared to more affluent districts. For example, another example, in Florida, the poorest districts have about 25% fewer teachers per 100 students than low poverty districts. Another example could be my high school. Our classrooms were too small and we had too many students in it. We averaged around 30 to 40 students per classroom and didn't have enough teachers. More teachers were being laid off for no reason at all. Next, I'll discuss how all this could lead to prison time for students. So the zero tolerance policy. The zero tolerance policy is a policy giving the most severe punishment possible to every person who commits a crime or breaks a rule. The problems with it, however, according to Grace Chen from the Public School Review, students have been removed from school due to the zero tolerance policies or school-based arrests and often find themselves involved in court proceedings, juvenile detentions for minor offenses. Once there, it is hard for the students to reverse back into being caught up with all their schoolwork because they're missing out all that time for being suspended or even expelled. According to the U.S. Department of Education, the people who suffer most from this are Latinos and Black students. In LA Unified School District, 32% of suspensions due to the zero tolerance policies were Latino, 33% were Black, and 3% were just whites. New Orleans, however, 100% of the school children expelled under the zero tolerance policies in 2009 were all Black, and 67% of them were arrested. I will now discuss what can be done to prevent the school-to-prison pipeline. It mainly has to do with distribution, giving more more money to the schools located in poor communities will help out way more. Also, just getting rid of unjust policies. So it's like the zero tolerance policy is proven not to work, so why did schools still enforce it? Getting rid of it will help the school give the students a better chance to become successful. Lack of textbooks, quality of teaching, and other educational services not being as good leads to higher dropouts in students. And alternative schools, which they are not subject to state and federal education guidelines. And what alternative schools are, just basically the students have been kicked out due to the zero tolerance policy or sent to another school. They had to show their worth in that school in order to come back to the regular school districts. What some districts have done in the past, they're exploring some justice programs which focus on forming relationships between teachers and students and administrators as well, giving students an opportunity to resolve problems just by talking to them. The Oakland School District has been testing this approach for around 10 years and recently came up with some numbers where all the suspension rates were found out to be cut in half due to this new program. We are ready to conclude now that I've discussed my resolution. So my proposal is just to have the federal government implement a law that will allow schools in lower income communities to have more funding than the schools in affluent communities to address all the problems such as not having time to do homework, having to babysit, or coming from broken households. Just because you're fortunate enough to go to a school that is located in an affluent community doesn't mean you should look down on those who aren't as fortunate because they have to work harder since they aren't able to have the same resources as you do.